some of the biggest games of this week 2 slate. At the top for me, Nebraska at Colorado for Coach Prime's home opener. We've been looking forward to this game for some time. Not to put too fine a point on it, but since they sold out their season tickets at Colorado in April, everybody circled this because Nebraska travels, right? No matter how good or bad Nebraska is going to be out there in force. And they lost the game against Minnesota that they had right there to win, right? They basically did some version of what Clemson did against Duke and what LSU did against Florida State. And they made too many mistakes that their opponents were able to capitalize on. Quite frankly, some outstanding plays by Tyler Nubin in that game as well. But I'm going to put it this way. Coach Prime is 24-3 over his last 2 years as a head coach. And now that he's got this win against a top 25 opponent, we have people that want to say TCU is bad rather than, yo, man, ain't Coach Prime just really good at this head coaching thing? Because the thing that you should probably take from him is there's no play card in his hands. He is not in the quarterback's ear. Not any more than he would be in his son's, I guess. He's not in the defensive coordinator's ear. He is coaching coaches. And those men want to work for him. Charles Kelly wants to work for him. Sean Lewis wants to work for him. And you could see it in how the players are operating because they came into this thing expecting to win. They came into this thinking, we are one of the best teams in the sport, and we get an opportunity to prove it on Big Noon. And for a second straight week, they get to do that against Nebraska. I'm also reminded that it didn't start out as brilliantly as you might have thought it would have, going undefeated at Jackson State, but that was ridiculous to think because we got levels to this in the HBCU community too. But Jackson State, spring football 2021, they get off to a roaring start. They beat up on Edmund Waters, and everybody wants to make a big deal out of that, even though Waters ain't never been that real good at football. But the game that showed me who Jackson State and, frankly, Coach Prime is their loss, their first one. For his first ever loss as head coach to Alabama State. In that game, former USFL running back Ezra Gray went for 194 yards on the ground. Like, absolutely ate up that defense. That sounds familiar. It's because it is. When teams have been able to beat up on Jackson State or even beat them, they've been able to run the football, which is what Texas Christian was able to do and what Nebraska should do on Saturday to give themselves a shot. But the director of player personnel for the USFL is a magnificent man named Jim Pop. And Coach Pop was assistant head coach and running backs coach at Alabama State when Coach Prime and Jalen Jones and Jackson State played against them. So he got to see up close what it was like to not just play against Prime, but the effect that Prime had on his players and on his coaches. And that's all. It's about being able to motivate. It's about reaching into somebody and saying, I know you have more. It's about bringing this legendary work ethic that he has to bear on the program. Like, I think that also gets in the way here because I was really getting in my feelings about why are so many people ready to dislike a program that's so much fun and a coach that is the most fun to hear talk in the sport. We beg people to have things to say that are interesting in the sport, and Prime does. Prime said that his kid should have Travis Hunter should have the Heisman at a halftime in a game that was tight. Like, you were like, hey, he catches 2 footballs. The Heisman's at his crib. What would we give to have more coaches like that? So he's bringing that energy with him. But that's also earned, right? Anybody that's ever played with Prime will tell you the same story. Nobody worked harder than him. His confidence came from, no, I have this. I can do this backward. I can do this in my sleep, because he doesn't actually go on the YouTubes, on the tweets, even if there was a time, I don't think he would, to tell people how hard he was working. The magic is you believing that he woke up and was just doing this. That's what is the energy around this, right? It's, you don't want to know about the labor pains. You just want to see the baby. And Coach Prime can show up with the baby. The rest of us are actually in there going, I wonder how long it took him to do this. 9 months, you know, how long it takes to baby, you know, so forth, so on. The right nutrition, the right diet, getting you sleep, right? Satisfying these urges for pickles at 3 a.m. in the morning. All these things that go into making one of us, right? He's doing that at Colorado. And Nebraska, Matt Rule, is trying to do the same. it's kind of interesting that both of these guys got these jobs because they're outstanding change agents. They just go about it differently, and they're on different timelines. It's not lost on Nebraska fans that at his first stop at Temple, his first season at Temple, Matt Rule lost his first 6 games. And then at Baylor, lost his first 8 games. It takes a little bit longer for him to build the thing. Now, at Temple, there's no transfer portal, right? That's not the case at Baylor, right? However, we've learned more things about how you can go into and get players out of the portal now to get good right away. I've cited Colorado. I'll also cite Texas Christian. I'll also cite USC as a way to do this. Even Michigan got better on the offensive line because they got 7 guys in the same class that might all get drafted next year on that line. So you have a guy that knows how to recruit out of the portal. You have a guy that knows how to coach coaches. And you have a guy that is going to make sure that his players earn the confidence they have, right? And then you have a game plan for that. So it's not just that Travis Hunter plays damn near 130 snaps, if not more. It's that the man was dancing in the locker room afterwards. He basically played the equivalent of 4 football games. And he was dancing in the locker room saying, I got a lot of mo. Shout out to strength and conditioning coach Mo Sims, who had those dudes off all offseason and handed them back to prime hungry and growling. Now, for those of you that don't know Mo Sims, you also didn't do your homework on Colorado. That's okay, right? It's Mo Sims, who was associate strength and conditioning coach at Georgia in 2021 when they won a national championship and then went to Jackson State with Prime and then followed him to Colorado. These dudes on this staff know what they are doing. And that means that Prime is a really great evaluator of people. So if he feels like he's calling people out, probably got something to stand on when he does, right? And he, like I, get down the way the Count in Monte Cristo gets down, which is we keep our receipts. So in this game, I'm going to pick Colorado, right? But I'm going to add here, if Jeff Sims does not turn the ball over, if he can find Marcus Washington out in patterns, and if Gabe Urban and Anthony Grant can run the ball effectively for 200 yards between them, we're probably looking at a dogfight, right? I think Nebraska can get it together this year. Just don't think they're going to do it in week 2 against Colorado. Meanwhile, we got people that are already circling Oregon and USC on the schedule for Colorado. Please do, right? Because I'm here for it. I can't wait to see these personalities. I can't wait to see these good football teams. That's what I'm here to talk about. That's what I'm here to do. Next on the week 2 docket for us, really looking forward to Texas at Alabama. Now, this could be a game for a college football playoff spot, right? Because I think it kind of sort of could have been last year, depending on how things go with Texas. But I've said all offseason that Texas beats Alabama last year if Quinn Ewers was healthy for the entire game. We are all hoping that Quinn Ewers is healthy for the entire game against Alabama this year, but this game is not on the 40 acres. It's at Bryant-Denny. It's why you're already seeing that Alabama's favored. But somebody better call Robert J. Oppenheimer because these boys from Texas are a problem. Okay? Tavondre Sweat, Malik Muhammad, David Benda, Jalen Catalon, Anthony Hill, Jalen Ford, all dudes. All dudes. I watched them play against Rice, and they're flying around. They're shooting gaps. Jalen Ford already has an interception this year. He's the best player on that defense. Benda had 6 tackles in that game. Malik Muhammad absolutely showing out, and I've thought the world of Jalen Catalon since he was at Arkansas before the transfer. But they also got Xavier Worthy, who reminds me more of Brandon Cooks than anybody that I've seen in a very long time. He's $170, but he don't play like that, right? Same thing is about Brandon Cooks when he's at Oregon State. He's short, but he don't play like that. He big bodies people, and he goes and gets football, and he's ready to fight. Quinn Ewers has a laser sight on that cannon. That was really interesting to see against Rice, too, is not just that he could throw it deep, but he could put it where he wanted to, down the field. That's why he was a former number 1 overall recruit. JT Sanders, Jordan Whittington, A.D. Mitchell, they complete that fighter jet, dagger attack. Steve Sarkisian dressing that look up, whipping a Windsor tie on it, button down the jacket only to launch into a good old-fashioned ISO counter and sweep, dialing up. Basically, from the carrier, send them, right? Like, it's a really fun attack to watch go out. And then Kelvin Banks anchors that line where he might be the most talented offensive lineman in the sport. Gave up 1 sack as a true freshman last year, which is ridiculous, and he's only getting better this year. Jonathan Brooks, Keelan Robinson, Jaden Blue, and C.J. Baxter, all back there on alert 5, ready to go. They go deep at that tailback position. I'm excited about Texas, right? Alabama, on the other hand, are going back to some of their 2013, 2012 roots, even 2015, 2016, depending on how you want to view Jalen Hurts at Alabama. But somebody better call the Russian Empress Catherine II, because these Alabama boys out here looking to be great. Okay? Deontay Lawson flying around the football. Caleb Downs solving Rubik's Cubes inside of 3 minutes and playing safety at Alabama. Terrion Arnold, Jalen Key, all dudes in that secondary that I think can absolutely play. Dallas Turner might be the best pass rusher in the sport, depending on how you feel about Jared Verse. Probably one of those two guys that you're talking about. And then offensively, that was the story, right? We got 2 new coordinators, but Nick Saban in a defense is Nick Saban in a defense. Don't care that Kevin Steele is defense coordinator. Offensively, you lose Bill O'Brien, and you go get Tommy Rees from Notre Dame. And the thought was you're going to run the ball in a more pro-style set. Not necessarily, but you are going to run the ball, right? One of the things that was interesting in seeing Jalen Milroe get the start is they're out there in shotgun, but they're out there with 2 tight ends in the shotgun. And the light bulb went on for me, because 2 tight ends in shotgun get you a light box, right? Where you could fold it in to 2 extra blockers. So your 5 becomes 7, right? Or even can become 8, because they'll run Jalen Milroe as the quarterback and the extra man. That's really fun to watch. And I watched every bit of that Middle Tennessee game so I could give you this insight. And they go 4 deep at the running back rotation with Jace McClellan, Roydell Williams, Jam Miller, and Richard Young in that game. But the thing that really struck me was they played 3 quarterbacks, right? Garbage time in the second half, but they played 3 quarterbacks. Every one of them, Jalen Milroe, Tyler Buchner, and Ty Simpson, scored a rushing touchdown. They are going to try to run the ball in light boxes and limit your drives. You're not going to see a whole bunch of high-scoring games from Alabama this year, because that's not how they're built. They are built to take advantage of the ball when they have it by pounding on people and to do what they would normally do defensively, which means that their defense is probably going to play fewer snaps than it has in recent years, because they're not going to score as quickly as they're used to scoring. They'll have explosive plays, but you're not going to see the kind of 2017 offense, 2018 offense, 2019 offense, even 2020 offense that we're used to seeing. They don't have Jalen Waddle out there, or Devontae Smith, or taking it all the way back, right, to that 2017 squad of just outstanding wide receivers, and Tua Tagovailoa and Jalen Hurts. Didn't matter who was at quarterback. Somebody was coming down with the rock wearing that Crimson Tide color. So I'm interested to see how many opportunities Texas gets offensively against a team that's going to try to play keep away, because that's their identity now, right? Jalen Milroe is getting compared to Jalen Hurts. I see it, because he's big and he's strong and he's muscular and he can run. But the thing he has that Jalen did not is a cannon for an arm. The difference is he's not as accurate as Jalen was. He will be, I think. I think I think Tommy Rees can help him with that. Tyler Wojak is a Notre Dame alumnus, and he's my producer, so it pops into my head every time I think about Tommy Rees. However, I think Tommy Rees is going to help them with that. And I think even when Jalen is bad, meaning fumbling the football, right, you still rather have him out there than the other guy. And I was also struck by just how little Tyler Buchner has played college football, let alone football, in the last 4 years, because he didn't really get to play his senior year of high school, and then some spot duty, and then injuries, right? We're talking about a guy that really hasn't got to found a rhythm. And then Ty Simpson was recruited at a time when the offense was geared toward throwing the ball down the field and not necessarily taking advantage of the quarterback's ability to run, right? Run into throw is what you might say they were doing when Tua Tagovailoa was there, or even Bryce Young, but certainly not Mac Jones, right? Mac Jones is back there to throw passes. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to pick Texas to win against Alabama. I think that they are talented enough to go into Bryant-Denny and get a win. I like Quinn Ewers in year 2. He's lost so much weight. He was at 218 last year. He's at $195. He's clean shaven. He looks like a Texas Longhorns quarterback. You can take that any way you want to. But he looks like he's ready to go and get them a W. Feels like they're ready for this moment now. And I love that we're going to see Jalen Milroe and Quinn Ewers going against each other, because those are 2 dudes from the state of Texas that were both recruited to play at Texas. Even Jalen Milroe committed to Texas before eventually decommitting and going to Alabama. Ought to be a lot of fun. Let's go to another Texas quarterback, because he plays at Texas Tech. Tyler Shuck is going to get to play against his old team, the University of Oregon. It's the last game we need to talk about, Oregon, Texas Tech. So I did not expect Oregon to be as great as they were against Portland State. I understand it's Portland State, but I still I wanted to see, Monique Voice, I would like to see it. And I did, right? I got a text from Jeff Schwartz, who does a podcast with Chris Felica, and a gambling podcast that just came out. You should go check it out. They're a lot of fun. Jeff is a lot of fun. He's on the show a lot last year, but he's also an Oregon alumnus. And he said it's a great day to drop 100 on Portland State. And I'm thinking, all right, but stop at 72, because Oklahoma at that point had scored 73 on Arkansas State. And they put up 81, man. They put up 81 points. Huddles, the Duck mascot, famously did 546 push-ups, because he does push-ups after they score. And they put up 729 yards of offense. Bo Nix was operating Will Stein's offense like he's been in it since the Obama administration, because he kind of has, not in the offense, but he's been playing football that long. Oregon's Bo Nix he's going to start his 49th game on Saturday against Texas Tech. Bo, I love you. You did the show. You married a lady whose last name is Smoke, so it's right there. But cash in that IRA, okay? Siphon that 401k, all right? Buy back the family farm. Been playing football forever. Jordan James and Bucky Irving are outstanding in that tailback room. Bucky Irving averaged 29.8 yards per carry against Portland State. And yes, he carried the ball more than twice. Troy Franklin's finally being used the way that he should be, right? He's actually being used like Oregon's best skill player. That ought to terrify everybody. Now that Troy Franklin's juice has been unlocked and he can get that at upper level where your mind, body, and soul must be one. Yeah, I'm all in on what Oregon can be. It's one of the 3 best teams in the Pac-12 already. What they're fighting about is being one of the 2 to get into the Pac-12 championship. Tight end Patrick Herbert, that is Justin Herbert's little brother, is going to find himself butt naked open a lot, simply because of the sort of offense that they're running, and people are just going to forget the tight ends just out there in the flat, able to catch some passes. And, oh, yeah, they added USC wide receiver Gary Bryant to the mix. Very excited about them. Tech defensive coordinator Tim DeRuyter is going to have his hands full, but they got guys. Got more Pirates than One Piece. You know, Miles Price out there doing the damn thing. I think Tyler Shuck is good. Put it another way, Tyler Shuck threw the ball as much as Shedeur Sanders did against Texas Christian, but was a ho-hum 31 of 47 for 338 with 3 TDs and a pick. That's an outstanding line. And then I looked at the other guy that was 38 of 47 for 510 with 4 TDs. Come on, man. Remember, Tyler Shuck led Oregon to a Fiesta Bowl appearance, right? I know it's COVID year, but damn, you know, if you're not on the Shedeur Sanders train, you should be now. And frankly, it's going to come down to Tyler Shuck being great against Oregon. They had a devastating loss against Wyoming on the road over the weekend. I watched every bit of that too. They're up 17-0 after the first quarter, and they managed to lose this game 35-33 in double overtime, mostly because they couldn't take care of the football and they couldn't get stops. The offensive line is still needing some work, right? Wyoming's pass rush got to Tyler Shuck 3 times. If Wyoming's pass rush can get 3 sacks to Tyler Shuck, what do you think Dan Lanning's pass rush at Oregon's going to do, right? You have some work here. You're going to have to get the ball out in space and get it out quickly if you expect to try to get a win. But I don't think that Texas Tech's going to get it done this weekend. I'm picking Oregon to win this game against Texas Tech. I love what Dan Lanning has done since he got to Oregon. He took a 49-3 loss to the eventual national champion and flipped it on its head almost immediately. That's a team that won 11 games last year while nobody was looking. They look like a team that can win 11 games this year. They look like a team that can win the Pac-12 championship this year. And they look like a team who's operating like they should make the college football playoff for the second time, right? Like, we're really in on what the Pac-12 is doing after going 13-0 with their week 1 slate just in time to blow up the conference. Thank you for watching the #1 college football show. Please remember to subscribe to the channel and like this video so that you don't miss any of the best college football coverage in America.